they have LinkedIn accounts that are professional, that convey, again, what your skills are, that also your LinkedIn account should reflect your resume. Right? It should mirror your resume and have a consistency. Again, there's this overall brand. What are you bringing to the table? And always know that when you're applying to most industry positions, the first person that looks at your LinkedIn page or looks at your resume or your cover letter isn't necessarily the hiring manager. It is the HR person, right? And they might not be experts on linear regression or the latest and greatest in deep learning, but they are seeking out whether you're a good match for the company. So convey that, and maybe you have, I'm sure everybody here has great personalities. And then also blog, get on Medium, or have your own personal webpage where you do blog about it. And again, I hate to point out Sebastian, but Sebastian does a fantastic job in all of these aspects, right? And so, again, you have a resident expert here, so definitely reach out to him. Additionally, make sure that you have a portfolio. Considering that a lot of you might not have a lot of experience, it still doesn't hurt to get on GitHub and have a repository where you're constantly and consistently contributing even to your own repository, let alone other open source communities or other open source packages, right? And do that often enough. And for me, let's say when I look at a resume, one of the quick things that I'll do is if the resume says, hey, I'm a senior developer with 10, 15 years of Java development experience, and you have a GitHub page, I'm for sure going to go to your GitHub page, look at your most recent repository, and look at the code that you've committed to get a sense of whether or not you're any good. But again, don't get worried, right? Because even if it's a junior position, that's okay too. Then again, the point is for me to get a sense that you are at least competent in what you're bringing to the table. Because if I'm going to spend the time bringing you in, onboarding you, and hiring you, I want to make sure that you're going to stay here for a long time and that you will succeed. It doesn't make sense for me to hire somebody that isn't going to be successful in the future. And I think every company wants their employees to succeed, just like every university wants their students to succeed in their career. You want practice? Get on Kaggle competitions. People that I hope have heard of Kaggle. You mentioned like the March Madness competition. They have I guess they call it something else. March Mayhem? No, something else. I guess this March Madness is a trademark by NCAA. But also, use Jupyter Notebooks when you're posting, right? Talk about your thinking when you're trying to solve even the most trivial problem. But pick a problem that means something to you, right? If you like, biking, to and from campus. If you like ordering takeout, maybe do some data science problem where it could be trivial, right? Do some data science problem that routes your bike path or your running path, right? Do something that means something to you. If I don't know, astronomy, do something about stars, galaxies, whatever floats your boat. If you like sports, do the March Madness thing. But do something where you're participating in solving some problem and you're sort of outlining your journey through that problem so that people can get a sense for who you are. And then again, get involved in the community. So I think that there's some data dive that's happening here at MSU, but take part at U of M. They have this Ann Arbor data dive where they partner up with local nonprofits. And you can spend a day hacking a data problem for that nonprofit, so they provide data. Or there's, I think, like data for social good or DataKind. So get involved, right? And attend conferences. But have your portfolio out and available. Again, put yourself out there. The point isn't to be perfect in your answer. The point is to have a presence so that people can take a look. All right? So I'll stop right there and welcome some questions about that. Anything? Okay. So getting back to your earlier question, right? Your resume. How do we get started? So notice that I don't say write your resume, because your resume isn't a one-time thing. I say you must iterate your resume. And don't overanalyze, don't overthink your resume. There is one and only one goal in my mind, right, of a resume, and that is to land an interview. So if you write a resume one time, and you apply to a bunch of jobs, and you don't get any bites, do you think it's wise to just keep on submitting that same resume that's unchanged? Obviously not, right? So you have to continue iterating, because the job of that resume is to land an interview. And an interview could be like a phone interview, right? Whatever gets your foot in the door, okay? So I'm going to go through this a little bit. So the first rule of resume writing, unless you're like some senior, executive or senior manager, your resume, single page equals good. And this is The Good Dinosaur. If anybody's ever watched that movie. Right? Single page equals good. Remember that. I have a rule that people can send me their resume, and I'm happy to look at it, only if it is a single page. Right? Because remember, the first person that looks at it is HR. And if it's 2 pages, 3 pages long, that's not good. Right? So 1 page is good. And maybe if you have a cover letter, which I'll get to in a minute, 1 page is good as well. So what does a resume look like? So this is usually my layout for the resume. So the top there, usually I have contact information. Your name, maybe your address, but it's not really relevant. But definitely your phone number, email address. I would even put your GitHub repo on there if it is truly a data science related job position. And then right after that is your relevant previous jobs. Right? So in my case, before I was at TD Ameritrade, I worked as a postdoc, right? And I was a researcher as a grad student. But that's fine too, right? But it's just quick and dirty, right? This is just like simple points of where you worked in just like a 1 sentence or a bullet point description. But then after that, you want to talk about your professional experience. And if you don't have professional experience, you talk about your projects. So similar to the ones that I mentioned about, putting out a Jupyter notebook or having some GitHub repo, or that you contributed to some open source package. Talk about that. And I'll mention a little bit more about that in a minute. And then after that, I will have just a bulleted point sort of skills section about computer or technology proficiency. So things like, which machine learning tools or skills that you have, or even computer science skills, programming skills, math and statistics skills, and also presentation skills are very, very relevant. And then finally at the bottom, right, if you're an undergrad, then you'll say your undergraduate degree. As well as maybe what your GPA is, but if you have your master's or your PhD, put that on there. And then after that, it's just your references. So all of this fits on 1 page. And don't cheat, right? Don't make it like 0.1 millimeter margin, right? Make sure that you force yourself to iterate and to choose only the most important things to list on there. Okay, and that's sort of the key thing, is that one pager. And I've put my GitHub page or my personal web page on the bottom there. So Sean Laws at GitHub.io. You can find me there and find my email address there if you're so inclined, and also my Twitter handle if you want to reach out to me as well. But on your resume, what you really want to do is focus on those skills. So there's one fundamental difference between sort of academic CVs and your resumes, right? If you're a PhD person, right? Is that your CV really is all about achievements, right? What fellowships did you do? What is your GPA? What is how many numbers of papers did you write? But in industry, they really don't, unless it's like a science position, right, or relevant position, they don't really care about that. What they really care about are your skills. What did you do to solve a problem? And what skills as a business can I leverage to help us, make more money, to help us help our customers, right? So skills are things like, hey, I developed this programming package, or I built something, or I don't know, you tend to use these sort of verbs, right? Some sort of action where you did something. And here's some examples, right? So at the top there, I promise that these 3 slides are the only ones that really have a large amount of text, but it's just to illustrate the example. The top there is actually a real job requirement. It says, experience with analytics, analyzing large data sets over 5 terabytes using advanced statistical and computational methods. This was a real job posting. And on my resume, I tried to sort of parallel, right, or mirror that response. And I say on my resume, that's one of those skills. I collected and assessed the quality of 25 plus terabytes of data, which I analyzed using state-of-the-art statistical and computational methods. Notice like those 2 last things. Imagine if I was an HR person or a recruiter looking at this. These are matching words. I think this is a match. I'm going to say, put it in the keep pile, right? So you see how I'm trying to leverage what I know. And even if though, and notice how I don't get into specifics of what was that data. That data could have been March Madness data, right? That I had scraped from NCAA website or something like that, right? But the point is that I have some experience doing it. And I also don't mention exactly, I don't have to mention specifically which machine learning techniques that I'm using. The fact is I'm answering some of that question because the goal of the resume is to get an interview. I'm not saying to lie or to be dishonest, right? But you can be honest about your experience. Here's another example. So the job requirement says experience working in research in a research organization with an iterative manner to foster innovation. So I said something sort of similar, right? Maybe not exactly, but it says I trained and collaborated with cross-team researchers, so it's kind of like an organization, and I introduced new and innovative analysis methods to the group. Okay, so you see how I'm sort of mirroring that. And so you want to convey that back to them. And again, it's not about what did I achieve, right? But it's what skills do I bring to the table that I can also bring to your company. So I hope that makes sense. And here's this last one, right? This is a job responsibility. So the last one was requirements, right? This is what I'm responsible for. You need to build advanced analytical / mathematical models to enable specific business opportunities. And I said, well, in my last job, I applied various machine learning techniques, again, not specific, to best predict the probability of an outcome, whatever that outcome is, right? And more importantly, you point out how much better was it? Because doing something is one thing, but doing it better is fantastic, right? Because imagine that you can do something to improve the customer experience versus just doing the same thing that they've always done, right? So you can say, improve prediction accuracy from X percentage to Y percentage, or I improved the analysis process from 5 days to 1. Because again, time is money, right? So convey that. And also, remember, customize and iterate, right? This is, anybody know what this movie is from? A fantastic movie called Inside Out. This character called Bing Bong, that my son loves. So he's like part elephant, mostly cotton candy. And I think he's like a squirrel and then a dolphin that you can weird guy. But the point is that the reason why I have him up there, right, is that you kind of have to be different things for different companies. Right? You have to be flexible in terms of assessing what the company exactly is looking for. But given the same resume, sometimes I've gotten my resume to a point now where I'm not even changing the words, and instead I'm just changing the order of my bullet points of my skills to bring the most important ones to the top, right? And that's how much I've iterated through time, and I know that I can kind of tailor it accordingly to that job posting. Similar to what I just showed you, right? Every time you see something, make sure that you're putting your best stuff at the top. And iterate every time. You must iterate. You can't just stay stagnant with your resume. And so you asked how long. Anybody recognize that little row, fish row? Finding Nemo? Okay, so I would say, I've been told when I first started searching, it takes about 9 months to really land your dream job. If you've done your networking, if you know somebody, you'll get there a lot sooner. Not to say that it can't be done much sooner, but if it's sort of your first time and you don't have that network set up and you really haven't put yourself out there to apply, it will take a solid 9 months for you to constantly be on that job market applying all the time. It could be a full-time job to do it, but you need to be out there. And you will land that opportunity, but you have to put in the effort too, right? Because you are your own best self-advocate. So know that roughly that's the amount of time. And honestly, by about 6 months into it, I got a job offer, right? But it wasn't quite the right fit. So then I continued on my journey. And almost exactly to the day, 9 months into it, I landed my dream job. Okay, so know that. It does take time, but it does take effort. So keep that in mind. And then again, going back to your resume, right? In business, we have this saying, faster, cheaper, better. Pick any two. You can't have all of them. And that's the standard way of thinking, right? But at the same time, I'd say on your resume too, convey the times when you've done something that was faster, that was better, that was cheaper, right? Maybe even if it is some sort of casual competition, tell people that you were in the top 10%. Or tell people that you did something or you rewrote some package that was faster than native Python. Right? That's fine too. But show that you put some effort into it. And this is from Cars. And for people who are foreign, because I do have some former colleagues who are including myself, I wasn't domestic previously, employment status. So this does matter. Not all companies hire people without US citizenship, but there are also opportunities to work with consulting companies. Not that I'm necessarily advocating for anyone in particular, but you can reach out to them as well. But it does matter when you're applying, because at the same time, you don't want to waste anybody's time as well. So if you don't have the right status, you should present it up front, because it doesn't make sense to go through an interview process and then for them to only find out that you don't have the right status. But again, you can go through different routes to the United States as well, legal ways. Or you can also apply for green card as well. And on your resume, please value spelling and grammar. And this is, anybody recognize the picture here? Bug's Life. It should bug the crap out of you that I spelled grammar wrong, right? And now it's right, okay? So for those of you who noticed, you're probably on the right track, okay? Because we want people who have pay attention to detail. So keep that in mind too. That get somebody to look at your resume and really give honest feedback. And again, iteration isn't just by yourself. Reach out to people who are in industry. If you send them a one-page resume, they'll be happy to look at it. But if you send them a three-pager, they're going to say no, right? So but also make sure that you've put the time into really perfecting it and putting care into it, okay? So spelling and grammar, keep that in mind. Coherent sentences. And then finally, the cover letter. Some companies require cover letters, right? And it wasn't until a headhunter had reached out to me. He said he had seen me on LinkedIn, again, networking, right? He reached out to me and said, hey, I have this position that I'm looking to fill. Can you send me your resume and your cover letter? I'm like, I have a cover letter, but I don't know what's really there. And really what you want to do in your cover letter, right, is have two sections. The first section is, I guess there's a header part, right, where you acknowledge what position you're applying for, and that you're very interested in it. And then you have one paragraph under there that talks about how you are a great fit for that position. Okay? An absolutely great fit for that position. And you bring up those things that match that job posting, like some of those skills, right? But obviously you're not going to be a perfect fit for every single position. I surely wasn't. But that's what that second paragraph is for, and that's what this recruiter helped me understand is, how do you make it a win-win? Because the point here is that not only are you bringing something to the table, but that this company is also going to help train you acquire other skills too, right? So for instance, I didn't have Hadoop or MapReduce type skills, but they were saying that, oh, somebody who comes in should have these requirements or have these responsibilities. Great, I'm excited to learn those things. And so that's what that second paragraph is really there for, is to communicate. I might not have those skills, but I am excited to hit the ground running, and I would love to learn those things. Okay? And that's really where they see, oh, this person not only has some of the skills, but they're also happy to learn it, versus they have those skills, but they don't want to learn anything else. I'm happy being status quo, let's say. So that's what you want to convey in your cover letter. And this is from, anybody recognize this? Ratatouille. This is that mean guy. So I'll pause there for a quick second for any questions. Yes?
One thing I struggle most with cover letters is finding the right tone for each company. What do you do in your work?
I guess the only tone to me that is acceptable is positive. Positive attitude. So I go there and I sign off with great enthusiasm, right? Sean Long. And then when I'm writing it, I say, I am applying for this position, and I have X amount of experience, right, in doing these things, and I think that I would be a great fit for your company. And remember, the point there isn't to necessarily get the job. The point there is to get the interview, right? Remember that, and then you convey that, where they want, give them a reason to bring you in. Give them a reason to pick up the phone, to call you, to talk to you, to know that you're a great person, and that you're a great person to not only work with, right, but to, again, have lunch with, right? Because a company is more than just doing work. A company is about people, and even academia is about people too. So keep those things in mind. So there's just that positivity. Positivity will get you a long way, right? And again, be professional. Right? Yes?
So you said that you should state your achievements in a general way, something like.
Not your
this is fine
achievements, your
with
skills.
the skill. But I heard more the opposite advice, something like be specific. Because, for example, if you say you use machine learning,
Mhm.
I mean just a simple OLS regression.
Mhm.
How do people know that you really know complicated stuff?
So you can get into a little bit more detail of that technical detail, but so you can name drop, right? You can name drop and say you did some linear regression or some PCA or some clustering method. That's fine, right? But you're not going to go and say I optimized these hyperparameters so that I got 99.92% accuracy, and it went to go solve a problem that cured cancer for this specific organism. Now I'm getting too deep into it. But again, the point is that if the job posting mentions certain machine learning skills, it's fine to mirror those, right? Definitely point those out. And maybe a couple of more that are hot. And that's great, right? But if you may or may not have those skills, you have maybe some more basic skills, that's also fine too. But throw that out there, right? And then be able to say, but I am taking a class to go pick these up, or I've done a MOOC of some sort where I've learned this, right? Some coursework, and I think that's fine too. But for the most part, I think that data science is such a new field that most companies have accepted that nobody's going to come out being hardcore experts, right? But they're also willing to help train and help teach, right? And these are also questions that I'll get into later on about when you get into the interview, ask questions, right? But the goal here is to get that interview and iterate, because maybe you'll see that you've been too vague. Then iterate, right? And also another thing to keep in mind is that a lot of job postings, so don't take things personally as you apply. It's very easy to think like, oh, I've applied for so long and it must be me. Trust me, it's not you, right? There's going to be a ton of data science jobs out there, but the key thing is that in business, a lot of job postings, when they posted it, they might have even had somebody in mind within the company, but they're obligated by law to post it publicly, right? So keep that in mind. So keep at it, right? Stay motivated and keep at it, and you will eventually land that job. And give yourself that 9 month or so time, but keep applying and keep networking too. So don't sell yourself short. Other questions? Yes.
In a lot of job descriptions, you'll have traits that they're looking for that are actually pretty vague, like, for example, extremely detail-oriented. So how do you kind of show this kind of skill in your cover letter or resume if that's only getting in the first impression?
Great question. I would take a step back and say, be very careful, right? That again, because data science is so new, a lot of companies don't even know what they're looking for. They are told by some executive or some high-level manager that, yeah, this marketing company told me big data, right? Great. And you need somebody, what did you say?
Extreme attention to detail.
Extreme attention to detail. And most of the time, it's not that complicated, right? But you can convey in there that maybe you debug something, right? You have a great eye for detail, and you're able to debug some problem that you had that maybe took others a very, very long time to do, and then or you shorten something. And eye for detail could be writing too, finding that there is spelling mistakes in things, right? Or I think coming from academia, being able to read important details out of text is also important, right? And finding that, and I think you can sort of convey it in those ways. Yeah.
So I'm also working on my PhD, so I'm sort of wondering about how you made that transition where you're sort of downplaying all these things that were like so important to everyone around you, and how you sort of sifted through your priorities. It sounds like it was sort of a job-by-job basis.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe downplaying the priority part, I'll address that, right? I go back to Anton Ego of you almost have to be ready to leave your ego at the door. I think it's challenging, right? And I can tell for